What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about the complete reversal of Warzone 2.0, the enormous amount of updates coming in Season 2, plus even more. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think the name of the Resurgence map is going to be when it does release on February the 15th? We have this teaser from the Ghost of Hope over on Twitter, in which he says, guess the first letter of the name of the new Resurgence map, and replies, the winner gets a cookie when it's revealed later this week. So that does imply that he knows what the name is. I doubt he's going to leak it beforehand, but I am curious what they're going to name that smaller castle Japanese theme type of Warzone map that images do exist of. Obviously, many images leaked out of the map a good, 2 months ago now, and it is confirmed that this upcoming week we're going to get a separate blog post talking all about that new Resurgence map. It'll be playable for Warzone 2, then DMZ, as well as Ground War over in multiplayer. But I do believe that blog is going to be separate from the February 8th blog that's coming out, which will feature a full breakdown of all upcoming DLC and even the roadmap. Now, real quickly, it was confirmed a couple of days ago that there have been no updates provided yet on stats or combat records over in Warzone 2. It wasn't mentioned in the recent blog post that we'll be talking about in this video, but I do think once the actual full blog comes around and the roadmap and some other tweets, maybe they'll actually mention what's going on with that, because if a combat record doesn't come out for Warzone 2 by February 15th, then I don't know what to tell you at this point, unless there are no plans to bring combat record anymore. Maybe something changed behind the scenes. I do think it's a big question mark as well as to what stats are going to be counted. Is it a fresh start from the day the combat record releases, or have stats been tracked in the background while you guys have been playing since at least Season 1, November 16th? I do wonder what the deal is with that, considering the fact that people out there are going for nukes in Warzone and probably want to track how many kills they got, how many wins, and some other statistics. So I'm very curious what the future does hold for that feature in Warzone 2. But when it comes to the brand new Gulag, obviously in the recent blog post, it does detail a bunch of communication from the studio over to us fans about what is going to be changed in every game mode with Season 2. And when it comes to the Battle Royale, they went into a lot of detail about the Gulag specifically. So it is going back to a 1v1 Gulag like we were accustomed to from Warzone 1. The capture point is returning for overtime. Not sure if it's going to be a flag like we saw in Warzone 1 or just some type of capture point that isn't a jailer. That's going to be really cool. And the map has been edited to better fit 1v1, so I'm assuming they're going to shrink the map up a little bit or maybe split it in half. And then whenever you get into the Gulag, you'll get one of those two halves depending on what the RNG is. And a 1v1 specific map is coming in the future for Warzone 2. And I wonder if that's going to be for Al Mazrah or if that's going to be for the next big Battle Royale map coming, which has been leaked to be Las Almas. There could even be some other Warzone 2 maps in development, which I talked about in a separate video earlier today regarding possible remasters of Verdansk and even the Blackout map. They also mentioned the loot pool of weapons has been updated for the new Gulag, and the handgun will remain available as a secondary, but there will also be bigger cash rewards to players who do escape the Gulag, and there will also be some cash as ground loot throughout the actual environment of the Gulag itself. So lots of very positive changes that will make the Gulag more worthwhile. It'll feel like it's kind of bringing us back to Warzone 1 a little bit, and we'll probably have people less annoyed whenever they lose a Gulag, since again, a 1v1 is much different from a gunfight like 2v2 in which you have to rely on somebody else to help you win. But in the blog, they also mentioned the cash economy. So in addition to the cash changes to the Gulag that we just talked about, they're also balancing the Battle Royale economy with a slight reduction to cash rewards for completing contracts. Additionally, though, they are increasing the lowest value of cash piles from ground loot to $800 from cash registers to $500, which were previously $100 minimum. In addition, cash can now be acquired via ground loot containers and white Stronghold supply boxes throughout Al Mazrah, but can no longer be found in basic and legendary supply boxes. So that's a really interesting change that people out there might not like, but I do see how they're trying to balance things out with kind of getting rid of cash in some areas and improving the cash rewards in others. This redistribution should make for quicker, more consistent gameplay in the pursuit of resources. But when it comes to loot and inventory, as announced last week, they're shifting away from loot windows and menus to floating loot that will now drop out of containers in the world, similar to loot from supply boxes. So this is the Piñata-like system we saw over in Warzone 1 with that looting system. This change is intended to improve the pace of gameplay by minimizing time spent navigating the UI and getting players back in the action faster. This is actually one of those changes that I could see being beneficial even in DMZ. There are some things that should remain separate though. Some things they're adding to Warzone or adding to DMZ, which should not correlate with one another whatsoever and should not transfer over. There are things that should remain separate, but there are things like this that I would see in both modes, and I can see that being very well received by the entire community. But they're also excited to see the new backpack system give players the agency to customize their inventory for a desired playstyle or role within a squad. So in their continued effort to balance engagements, medium and large backpacks will no longer be available, and eliminated players will now drop loot onto the ground rather than loot-filled backpacks. Every player will have the same backpack throughout the entire game, which will subsequently reduce the amount of stacking medical supplies, equipment, and kill streaks. They will continue to look for feedback and provide updates that streamline the looting experience for everyone. So I could see them keeping the medium or large backpack system for DMZ, but for Battle Royale, you gotta be a lot quicker when it comes to looting, at least in my opinion. So that's where I can see them saying, all right, we'll keep that backpack system in one mode, but not Warzone 2 BR. And I think overall, being able to nerf the amount of supplies people can hold, such as a spam amount of precision airstrikes or self-revives or whatever else, getting rid of that number for BR is going to be huge, although I wouldn't mind if you're able to spam and stock all of those in DMZ. That's just my opinion though. But also when it comes to loadout, some really important changes that really might spark your attention if you guys have kind of put down Warzone 2 for a little while. They did say Season 2 will introduce customizable perk packages. This feature will launch with a slightly reduced pool of available perks, which we may slowly reintroduce over time. We want to navigate this particular feature as carefully as possible, ensuring that all available perks provide ample utility and remain viable/balanced options. Primary weapons will continue to be available at buy stations, but now at a more affordable price so that players can pursue victory with the most desired weapons. We also remain happy with the introduction of loadout drop markers, though we have taken a careful look at the price point. The price of loadout drop markers has been slightly reduced so that respective squad sizes can acquire their full loadouts at a faster pace. In addition, on extremely rare occasions, players may find one while looting throughout Al Mazrah. A second loadout drop public event has been added, which means the drops will now happen on the 1st and 5th circles each match. So that's a pretty drastic change that I think is really bringing us back to the way Warzone 1's loadout system did work, but they've tweaked it a little bit to better suit the ecosystem of Warzone 2, which I do respect quite a bit. I think this will probably make the community the happiest it's ever been when it comes to loadout system for Warzone 2.0, and definitely answers the feedback everybody out there was giving over at the COD Next event a couple of months ago. But another big change that I know I was also a bit concerned about is regarding 3-plate vests. So it did say they're continuously evaluating the pace of combat engagements and have decided to make a change. All players will now start with a 3-plate vest. Varying sizes of vests will no longer exist in the Battle Royale loot. This standardization will bring a more reliable feel to each engagement from the get-go. They'll continue looking at data about optimizing downtime and improving the ability to recover from a prior engagement. We'll love to see at least the tempered perk get added in. Maybe not something that you can find on the ground, but something that you could at least buy for a fair amount of cash. We'll love to see that at some point, but the 3-plate vest system I think is best for just regular BR, but maybe for DMZ, keep it the way that it is. Where you spawn in with a single plate vest, you can find a 2-plate and a 3-plate later. I think, again, this is one of those things that does suit BR better than it would fit both BR and DMZ at the same time. Also for movement, they made an important tweak to movement that should yield better outcomes for players in combat. Starting with Season 2, players will be able to bust through doors while plating the way they would if they were sprinting. This change includes a slight increase to movement speed while plating to enable players to get to cover faster in moments of need. But also with buy stations. In order to make buy stations and their goods easier to access, they've revamped their approach. Spawn locations have been added and adjusted. Spawns will be static across the map, and loadout drop markers have unlimited stock at all stations. As always though, they will continue to monitor the global balance of their economy and availability of resources as they move forward. So that's huge because I've seen this issue in both BR and even DMZ. Buy stations just aren't in enough places in Al Mazrah. Al Mazrah is a very big map, and I just don't feel like a lot of the 5th or final circles really account for the fact you need at least one buy station somewhat close for that last minute regain, for that last minute buyback. I just feel like looking at other BR maps we've seen in Warzone, those maps at least gave you some type of opportunity to possibly hit that buy station at the very last second, but Al Mazrah just hasn't offered that since day one. But last and certainly not least, we have the Stronghold. So Strongholds provide an alternative gameplay experience with high payoff for those willing to tackle the objective. And for others interested in robbing players of their rewards, they are committed to providing a balanced engagement for players who choose to enter Strongholds. Season 2 will bring changes to the rewards players receive from Stronghold and Black Site completions, as well as additional adjustments to AI combat damage. So when it comes to AI combatant damage, that's one of those things that DMZ is also going to be seeing some changes with, right? AI is going to be nerfed down quite a bit across Al Mazrah and Building 21, but also nerfing them a little bit in Battle Royale Strongholds is a must. I mean, if anything, it's best to probably keep AI a little bit stronger for DMZ because it's an extraction shooter type of experience, whereas Battle Royale should just have AI in there for little objectives, little Easter eggs here and there, but that should not be the core focus, whereas in DMZ, it's a PvPvE, so I could see why the AI is kind of buffed up enough to the point where they're almost as good as real people. But in Battle Royale, that's not something you want to go up against all that often, even when doing Strongholds, right? Make it challenging, but not too ridiculous. So I'm glad they're going ahead and tweak that. And with that being said, I think adding in and better rewards for doing all of that, you know, whether it's a Stronghold or a Black Site, that's going to be great for replayability in Warzone 2. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Don't forget that we're going to get a blog post about the Resurgence map as of this week. I'll be making a separate video about that, and I'll also be making a video on February 8th when it comes to the full DLC roadmap review, which I couldn't be more excited about. But let me know what you think down below. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.